Welcome everyone to today's episode. We're excited to dive into a powerful conversation inspired by the release of Annu Pandey's second book, Keeping Faith Alive. This book takes a bold and much needed look at spiritual abuse, toxic faith, and the hidden struggles that many people face within religions or spiritual environments. In this discussion, we'll unpack chapter one of the book, what is spiritual abuse? We'll explore what it really means, how it happens, why it's often ignored, and how it affects a person's identity, psychology, and faith. Whether you're on a healing journey or seeking a deeper understanding of spiritual and emotional well-being, this conversation is here to educate, empower, and encourage reflection. Let's begin. How are you, Anu?
I'm good, Siddharth. How are you?
I'm great, eh? I'm actually honored that you actually reached out to me to discuss your second book.
Okay.
All right. My opening question to you is how would you clearly distinguish spiritual abuse from other forms of emotional or psychological abuse?
So, although spiritual abuse is also a form of emotional and psychological abuse, but in this specific form of abuse, God is used by the abuser to scare, to manipulate, to gaslight. So, spiritual abuse is emotional or psychological abuse with God attached to it. Other forms of abuse, they attack your mind, your emotion, your confidence, but this particular form of abuse is that it attacks your relationship with God. It affects your view of God. It affects your view of scriptures, the religious teachings. So in other forms of abuse, you are told that you are bad, you deserve this, that's why it was done to you. But when you are abused in spiritual context, you are told that you are suffering because God wants you to suffer. You are wrong. That's what God thinks. God thinks that you are wrong. If you disobey me or if you disobey the system, you are disobeying God. If you try to question or dissent anything, it means you do not believe in God. Your suffering means you are not trying enough. So when the abuse is of this form, when it's spiritual abuse, the faith is used to hurt you. um, Classic example would be an abuser treating you in a way they want you to, and then they tell you that it's your karma. Of course, I always
Hmm.
say that I deeply believe in the concept of karma. It exists, and it's what is causing the manifestation of so many things in our lives. But the law of karma exists in scriptures so that we all read it and we can monitor our own karmas, not so that we can go ahead and cause chaos in everyone's life, people's lives, and control them, manipulate them, gaslight them, abuse them, exploit them, and then tell them that, oh, it's your karma. That's not why teachings of karma were there in the scriptures. Also, all the scriptures say that we have to be primarily good human beings. So abusers use this thing to abusers use this religious teaching, and lot of religious teachings are taken out of context. They take some words, a part of a purport, something that was said by a religious teacher, a preacher, a guru. It is taken out of the context and used to justify the abuse, or to enable someone else who's doing that abuse. So when God is used to hurt someone, or spiritual teachings are used to hurt someone, or to justify the hurt or abuse or any kind of mistreatment that is done to someone, that is called as spiritual abuse. So that's how it's different. And if we talk about the effects that it causes in other forms of abuse, or although all kinds of abuse, they destroy a person's sense of self, their worth, their confidence, their mental health, causes a lot of issues like depression and anxiety. But this form of abuse, it it could destroy your relationship with God, as I said in the beginning. So this is the most, I think, the worst thing that someone can do. Someone is to to spiritual kind of abuse. So like someone said, I read it somewhere, that of all the bad people, religious bad people are worst. Why? Because the damage that a religious bad person or a spiritual abuser can do to you, it's worst. It can take away God from your life, uh, if a person has nothing in their, there are some people who are very poor, they do not have education, they do not have a family, some don't even have a good physically healthy body, but God is something that we all know, that we all have God with us, you know this is something that we all have. But when somebody gets spiritually abused, this person may become aversive to God. So this is what spiritual abuse can do to you. It can make you aversive to God, to scriptures, to religious teachings, to your religion, your faith system. So that's how it is different. It takes away the last thing that one can have in their life to hang on to. If you don't have money, you don't have a career, you don't have relationship, at least you have God. But
Hmm.
if you have been abused in any other form, then at least you will have God to hang on to, and to, okay, at least I have God, at least now I can hope that things can get better. But when someone gets abused in spiritual spaces, in spiritual context, when someone who was supposed to guide you on this path abuses you, takes away, they can take away God from your life, now you have nothing left. Also, we'll get into later on in some other sections how, in toxic faith systems, you get disconnected from outer world, and when you're abused in your own spiritual space, you feel internally disconnected from that space. So the betrayal coming from those for whom you left rest of the world, it can disconnect you from yourself. And there are so many other things that I might get later on in other questions, how different things that happen in a spiritually abusive environments can disconnect you from yourself. So spiritual abuse has the power to disconnect you from yourself, so you don't even know later on who you are. You do not have God, you have no connection with God, and you do not have connection with yourself also. So spiritual abuse is basically a form of abuse that can disconnect you from yourself, and that can disconnect you from God, because God is repeatedly used, and it also affects your sense of self-worth.
All right. When spiritual beliefs are used to control or manipulate someone, what elements turn it into abuse rather than guidance or faith?
So so basically I would say, when the see, all kinds of spiritual or religious structures, there are two things which are everywhere. The first one is the unquestioned authority, and second is the moral pressure on the followers. Now of course, discipline is important, strict teaching is important. I'm not saying that every strict teaching is abuse or every spiritual discipline is toxic. These things are needed in a setting where something has to be taught, like in schools and offices there are some norms, some rules, some things that you have to obey. So strictness is important, of course, discipline is also important. But now, if the person who is on the authority position, if the authority that is given to them is unquestioned, nobody is there to question them, and also the followers, or if we talk about in a family setting, if the people who are to obey an elder of the family, who is like a guide, who is providing the spiritual or religious guiding to the rest of the people, if there is too much moral pressure on everyone else to blindly obey the system, or to never question anything, or to never dissent to anything, or to think critically about what is going on, or you know always think that whatever is said we have to do that, because everyone who is elder, who is senior, is always right. So that is what is called as unquestioned authority. So in a system, if there is an unquestioned authority and moral pressure is there, that's when the spiritual abuse, the guidance can turn into spiritual abuse. Also, in most of these spaces, there is no accountability mechanism. Although in a lot of communities now they have started the accountability mechanism, but still most of the spaces lack it. So the person who is sitting on a authority position, they have unquestioned authority, and the people who are supposed to follow them, they have moral pressure that they cannot question, they cannot think for themselves, and there is lack of accountability. That is when guidance can turn into abuse. And you know what it does? It Your freedom becomes smaller, your voice becomes silent, your intuition is demonized. As I said, you cannot think for yourself, your choices are controlled with fear. You have to be do everything in a certain way, like blindly you have to follow. You cannot question why I have to do this, why not, or why not something else. You cannot question because you are told that questioning the system is equal to questioning God, as I said in the first response. And God becomes, so what happens gradually, you become terrified of God. So God becomes
Hmm.
something you're terrified of. Obedience is demanded, not chosen. So healthy spirituality is supposed to expand you, empower you, take you towards God, take you towards your true self, and create a loving relationship with God. However, on the other hand, spiritual abuse, it shrinks you. You cannot think, you cannot question, you don't know what you're doing, you just have to do everything because you're so fearful of the divine retribution. If I question, God will be angry. If I don't follow everything, even if I think about something against the rules, the things that I have to follow, God will be upset and he will not like it. So in spiritually abusive environments, in toxic faith system, God is repeatedly used to tell you that you don't do this or God will get upset, you don't that do the, God will get upset, it's not, it's sinful, it's immoral. So it gradually starts to shrink you. Healthy spiritual environment is supposed to empower you. You should feel empowered, happy, and you feel like I am growing now. Spirituality is healthy. Spirituality is make you feel like, wow, I'm growing. Things are getting better. If you are in an environment where you think no, things are getting worse, I was happier before. I was more relaxed because now I have anxiety. Now I have depression. Now I have questions that I cannot ask. So I have anxiety because I have two conflicting thoughts in my mind and I cannot ask anyone because if I ask, I'll be labeled as someone who's not completely loyal, not fully committed. So, but the questions are there, they have come to my mind. Now I might think like this, okay, now question has come to my mind. That means I am a sinner, because as someone who's not a sinner should always be happy and contented with everyone. So gives you anxiety, gives you depression, gives you a lot of conditions, and you cannot even share this with anyone, because if you are not happy, it means again you will be labeled that you are not fully committed, you're not trying enough. So guidance can become toxic. Guidance can turn into abuse if the unquestioned authority is there, if too much moral pressure is there on the followers, and there is no accountability mechanism. And you feel like you are shrinking instead of feeling empowered.
Right. I have a question for you in the comments here already. This is from Jitin Rishika. Hi, Anu. Thank you for an interesting topic. I do find spiritual abuse as controlling and dominant. How does faith define what is to happen to a being? Can a spiritualist have that much control?
Of course, system gives the control actually. So actually, they are different things. So, first of all, system. The system in which you are, the system could be an institution, a community, a group, or your family itself. So, in a dysfunctional unit, there is a top down hierarchy in which the person who is on the top hierarchy, they decide everything and nobody can question. Also, abuse isn't always intentional. It can be intentional and it can be
Mm,
unintentional also. If you are in an abusive system, okay, to be honest, I have been in the role of spiritual abuser, because I was in a system where uh, I wouldn't exactly blame the system, but I would say I carried beliefs
mm,
that if I do so and so to someone, it's for their own good. Even if I have to
mm.
give them some pain, it's for their own good. I have to give them God, no matter how I do that. So I did it to a few people. I actually abused them emotionally, and I have been abusive to my children. in the past. I have been abusive, emotionally and psychologically abusive to a few of my friends and neighbors, because I had a very strong belief that in any way I have to give them God, as if I was someone who had the copyright of God. Only I can give them, so whatever they are already doing is not enough. So it had to do with the belief and the teachings that I was carrying with me. And then there are intentional abusers also. So people who have narcissistic tendencies, when they are in spiritual spaces, whether it's a family unit, a community, a congregation, or whatever, they are fully focused on themselves. Narcissistic people, whenever they enter any kind of space, they are fully focused on themselves. Whatever they are doing, it's for themselves. But in order to stay in that position, in order to continue to get the benefits that they are getting, sometimes they do things that hurt others, but they do not care. All the care is about themselves. They don't even think if it's actually helping this person spiritually, or it's causing spiritual damage to this person. So yes, in spiritual spaces, abuse is possible, and even if the person has good intentions, the person can cause abuse. And in my book, I have described a lot of reasons, all possible reasons why someone can cause abuse, and why people let others abuse them spiritually. So I have listed all the psychological reasons behind them.
What are the most common characteristics or warning signs of spiritual abuse that people often overlook?
So there are a lot of red flags. If you enter a spiritual space, the first thing to notice is that if you are allowed to question, if in a space, whether it's spiritual space or any kind of space, if you are not allowed to question, that means something is wrong there.
Mm,
So and especially in spiritual spaces, see, we have a lot of scriptures these days, a lot of purports written by, for even for same scriptures, let's say Bhagavad Gita, there are so many purports available in the market. If I go to this place A, they will say that our purport is perfect and everything that is written is there is the only purport of this Bhagavad Gita. If I go to place B or place C or place D, everywhere they are going to say that our purport is best. Our guru was the
mm,
most. Now if I have studied more than one Bhagavad Gita, of course I might have some questions in my mind. And someone who is actually concerned about my spiritual life, someone who genuinely wants me to get better in my spiritual life, will allow me to question, even if they don't know the answer. For example, in the career world, in schools and colleges, there are two types of teachers. I have worked as a college teacher, so I'm telling you from my personal experiences. So there are two type of teachers. One is one, if students ask some question and I do not know the answer, I will say, I don't know the answer to this question at this moment, and tomorrow I'll go and research, and tomorrow I'll tell you the answer. And the second one is that they will shame the student for even asking that questions, because accepting the feeling that I do not know the answer, it's so difficult for them. So weak people, they always shame the other person for asking a question.
mm,
So in educational setting, it happens all the times.
mm,
It also happens in the spiritual settings. If you ask someone a question and they don't know the answer, if they are strong and secure and confident people, they would say, I don't know the answer at this moment, I will research it and I will tell you some other day. But if they are insecure and incompetent leader or incompetent preacher, they will shame you for having question. They will shame you in some way. I saw this happening so many times during my school life, during my college life, and even when I was teaching in college. Teachers would literally shame the child for asking the question, although they keep saying, now my students, now my children, they tell me about such incidents at their school. So it happens all the time. If a person who is incompetent and insecure on the inside, and if you ask them something, instead of answering the question, trying to find out the answer, later on telling you the answer, they will shame you for that. Similarly, in toxic spaces, in spiritual settings, religious settings, non religious cults also, you are discouraged from asking questions, primarily because most of them, They even don't know the lot of answers, and so they have made it a rule that if anybody asks questions, they lack commitment. It's their problem. They are sinful, they are not morally very good. So you give this idea impression from the day one, so everybody will feel discouraged to ask question. So the first sign is that you are not allowed to ask question in all kind of dysfunctional spaces. Then your needs are labeled as selfish. We all have biological needs. I have literally heard stories of spiritual abuse where people, as a woman, she told me that she had migraine pain, and she was shamed for having that pain. She was told that she was selfish for not coming to the service when she was having migraine pain. Then the third one is that you are blamed using concepts like karma, sin, surrender. So a lot of the time these words are just taken from scriptures and they're thrown on your face if you're not doing what you're supposed to do in that moment. So the leaders become untouchable. Also, if someone has reached leadership position by whatever means they have reached that position, and nobody also talks about that in a toxic faith system, in order to reach a leadership position, you just have to have some managerial qualities. You have to be smart. You should be able to bring a lot of donations and all kinds of material qualities. Nobody actually cares in toxic faith system if you have actually spiritually involved or not. If you are financially and materially favoring the system, you can very easily step up and reach to that leadership position. So, and once you reach the position, you are untouchable. You are above the rules. Rules are there, but you are above them. You make rules, you impose those rules on the followers, but you are above them. So if as let's say in for a community, if there is a rule that there is a way of talking or behaving or something is prohibited, so it should be for everyone. But if someone thinks that I am above all of you, so I can have whatever privileges I want to, but you all have to follow these principles, it means that something is wrong. You feel guilty for having boundaries. The healthy structures, they allow you to have your autonomy, they allow you to have boundaries, whether it's a family system or an institution, a congregation or a group. But in toxic systems, you are shamed for having boundaries. People who lack boundaries, they are very easy to manipulate. They don't know where my wishes, my life ends and when somebody else's start. They don't know that line which is not to be crossed by me in others life, or which should not be crossed by others in my life. So these people are very easy to manipulate, and they, if they question, you can easily shame them. So from the day one in toxic faith systems, you are told that you are suggested that having boundaries is not right thing. If you try to have them, you are feel guilty for having them. So test boundaries. Let's say they tell you to do something and you initially say no. If they respect your no, it means they are respecting your boundaries. Mostly the toxic families, toxic friends, toxic groups or communities, they do not respect your boundary from day one. If they want you to do something, they will keep forcing you over and over and over. They do not really care why you are saying no. Even if you give explanations, they don't want to listen. You cannot explain them because they've already made up my mind that I'm not going to, this person is not, um, they cannot have their boundaries. Then your intuition is dismissed. You cannot have your intuition. A client was telling me the other day, she had some intuition about something. She was telling me an old story where she had an intuition about something and she told that to her leader, and the leader dismissed that right away. And when later on the same thing happened, then she went to her leader and said to her, see, I told you that this was going to happen, I always felt it. And she was shamed for thinking negative and for manifesting her negative thinkings. So that's how your intuition is dismissed and you're shamed for having intuition or using your brain. You're taught that your suffering is your duty. So if you're suffering, it's not really important to suffer all the time. If somebody suffers all the time, they will get all kinds of mental health issues. Sometimes we all have to suffer. We cannot have a life where there is no suffering. It's practically not possible on this earth. But glorifying someone's suffering or giving them extra suffering or motivating them to suffer, this is also a toxic thing to watch out for. Spiritual quotes are used to silence you. Spiritually abusive people are very frequently they take verses from Bible, from Quran, from Bhagavad Gita, and they throw it on your face to justify what they are doing, to justify if something wrong happens and you try to hold them or someone else who is highly valued in the community or in the family, if you try to hold them accountable, if you try to take stand for yourself, a verse is thrown on your face and then you have to get silent because the verse is coming from the mouth of God. God said those verses. So now, as I said earlier, verses are taken out of the context and used to justify abuse or used to silence you. And you continuously live in fear of disappointing God. If you reach out to a religious family or reach out to a community, a spiritual religious community or a non religious cult, and you see that everyone is always afraid, it means that it's a red flag. A healthy spiritually community or a healthy spiritually environment is supposed to make you feel safe. It's
Mm.
the best thing to notice. If the people who are there, they feel safe, they are not always scared or worried or anxious, or if I do this something will happen, if I do that something will happen, I must do that otherwise something will happen, they are living in constant fear of disappointing God, then this shows this is one of the red flag. So in such environments people think that they are being humble, they think that they are being spiritual, but actually they are being controlled. Initially they are being controlled by the spiritual the leaders or the elders of the family and by the system, and gradually they internalize these controlling narratives in their head and then they start to control themselves over the time. People who live in controlling environments, they try to control themselves. Now they cannot, although they know what they want, when they want to take rest, when they want to eat, when they want to drink, but they will not follow that, they will not listen to their bodily cues because they're too afraid, so they have to walk on a that particular line because they are afraid of pleasing God.
All right. In your experience, why do you think spiritual or religious institutions sometimes allow abuse to happen instead of preventing it?
um I wouldn't actually say that they allow it, but
Mhm.
over the time, if an institution becomes toxic, and in all kinds of religious institution, there is very much importance on group cohesion. We have to be together. We have to have each other's back, and we have to stay united, like the cavemen used to do. They lived very united. They have some groups and they would stay very united even though if there were some dysfunction inside because they had to save themselves from the outsider. So the us versus them mentality, that we are more purer, the purity culture, this the group, people inside the group are pure, we have higher consciousness, um, we have higher we are vibrating at higher levels. So this kind of thinking that we are superior to the outsider, and we have to stay connected to keep ourselves pure, and we have to have each other's back, we have to be there for each other so that we do not need outsider who are impure, who are immoral, who are on wrong path, who are not on the path to God. Now, so we have already decided, we have already make up our mind that we are purer than them, we are superior than them, and we are on the right path and they are not. So now we have to stay together, and in order to do so we cannot betray each other, we cannot call out each other. So now reputation is uh, preferred over truth. Even if we get to know, it's the same thing happens in narcissistic and dysfunctional families also. Even if they get to know that someone is wrong, doing something wrong to one of the members of the family, they will not speak, they will not want to talk about that because it will ruin family's reputation. Similarly, it happens in the institutions also. They prefer reputation over truth, they prefer obedience over accountability, hierarchy over humanity. If someone is on a leadership position or in family, someone is elder, we have to respect them. We have to obey them. We cannot displease them. We can ignore humanity for some time, but we cannot displease them. So hierarchy is preferred over humanity. And unity is given more importance over justice. Something is going wrong, okay, we can ignore that because it will affect the unity. If let's say a community member gets to know about a leader or a guru in a spiritual community, and if they really take an action against that person, they go to police and they file a complaint, everybody will get to know about that, and it will decrease their credibility as a group. People will Less people will come. People who are already there, they will try to leave. It will affect the unity. It will affect the image, the social image of the institution. So all these fears, although there are communities, spiritual communities, I am aware, who have accountability mechanism, who take these things seriously, still unity is there. So we need to stop fearing that. See, in a family, or in a family system also, if a family has 5 members and one of the members we know that is not good, has moral issues, or doing something, some to someone, one of the family members is abusive or whatever, we need to call that person out, we need to hold them accountable, and we tell them that they need to change, otherwise some actions will be taken against them. So at least you tell that person. But in toxic faith system, they are afraid, and they are afraid not only that the unity will be affected, image will be, they somehow there is a deep seated fear also that god will be displeased, because this group of people was working towards pleasing god, spreading God's name and making people God conscious. And now we have disrupted everything. So the fear, the same fear, but actually it's only fear. If all communities start to do that, they can have an accountability mechanism inside their community. The role can be given to someone in the community itself who can check these things and take care of these things. And what if someone is sitting on a higher position? Also, as I said in the previous response, they automatically um, believe that if someone is on a high position, higher leadership position, they are more spiritually advanced. And someone who is more spiritually advanced, we cannot hold them accountable for anything because it will be sinful. So there are a lot of dysfunctional beliefs that are embedded. They are making these people fear a lot of things, and that's why they allow it. So I'm talking, so basically I was talking about people who do not have wrong intentions. Apart from that, every community have narcissistic people also. And narcissistic
Mm.
people, as I always say, they only care about themselves. They do not want any kind of chaos or any extra work to do, any disruption in what's going on, because they are already enjoying what is happening and they just don't care. And if they are one of those people who have done something wrong, they would also want to save someone else who is like them. You save me and I will save you. So that kind of relationship narcissistic people have among themselves in toxic spaces, in families, in institution, in all kinds of spaces. So I will save you and you save me. If somebody says something about you, I'll have your back and you have my back, and we will keep glorifying each other and manipulating people about each other so we can have our the post that we are holding, the position that we are holding. So why institution allow it? Because of different reason for different type of people. Healthy and people, the innocent people who are not, who do not have wrong intention, they have a lot of fears. So because of those fears, those beliefs, they allow it. And on the other hand, the people who are actually toxic and narcissistic, they do not care it, and a lot of times they are responsible for the abuse that is happening in their communities, and they don't want it to stop. Because in the first place, narcissistic people come to spiritual spaces because they want to control, they want to be admired, and they want to be in power. And that's the main reason why they are there. They are not there for god, and they keep this facade of being highly spiritual. They become pseudo spiritualist. They are not actual spiritualist, they become pseudo spiritualist with all this outer uh, uh, look, that looks on the outside, that if they are very highly spiritually elevated, all the get up that they have, the kind of the language that they use, they speak in slow language and they use a lot of verses in their dialogues to look very highly spiritual on the outside. These type of people, they want it to be continued because it serves them. the toxic things that are happening, they are actually serving them, because they are there to do these kind of things. So for two different reasons, institutions allow it.
All right. What makes spiritual abuse so difficult to identify for victims in the early stages?
See, in abuse does not starts from the day one. Toxic faith communities, or the good communities, the really nice one, healthy communities, as well as toxic communities, both of them, all kind of spiritual communities, initial days, they show you a lot of love, acceptance, validation, care and support. So when you get a community that loves you, supports you, take cares of you, and especially they are trying to take you nearer to God, you start to lower your guards from day one, because you know, I am in a safer, in a better place where everyone is holy and everyone is pure and everyone is connected to God, and they are on the right path and they are God's people. So all this kind of belief, even I used to believe for a long time in my life that anyone who is connected to God, who's trying to become closer to God and preaching God's name, they have to be good people.
Mm,
In India, this belief is very prevalent. If someone is wearing the tilak and this orange saffron dress and is praying 2 3 times, whether it's a woman or a man, um, automatically people assume that this person is a good person. So the initial days in a community, whether it's toxic or a healthy one, you feel so good, so you feel so accepted, so loved, so cared for, so support. Also there is a lot of material support also, because as I said, there is a lot of cohesion in such groups. So there is a lot of love, care, and you frequently meet, frequently eat and dance and go on trips and all that. So suddenly there is so much, such a good social connection. So even if you get to see something, you get to see some loopholes or some cracks, you want to ignore them. Obviously, why would you want to? When we are very happy, very elated, we can ignore a little bit of a few things. Also, there is a lot of in such places, in such spaces, there is a lot of pressure into keeping the facade, I would say, in for toxic groups, I would say facade, and otherwise I would say an image. You have to talk, you have to wear, you have to eat, you have to do everything in a certain way, which gives out an impression that you are purer than outsiders, you are purer than what you were before. And everybody in groups do that, even in healthy communities they do that, so that it gives a good impression and people would come and join, and they will also get better. So of course, inner transformation happens in healthy faith communities, but also from the day one you are supposed to create an impression. Also you're supposed to act, live, have a life, have a certain lifestyle. You have to be a certain way that gives out impression that you have become better than before because you came to this community. And the same thing happens in toxic communities also. Although there isn't much inner transformation in everyone, some people, they are not very much touched by the negative things happening outside them because of the inner world that they carry. I've explained this thing in my book, why same toxic group can um, be perceived differently by different people, and how it affects differently different people because of the inner world that they carry, the kind of psychological and emotional health that they have. So some people actually get transformed, but everybody has, they have a pressure to create an impression also in a certain way. So when you enter a space where everybody is giving you an impression that they have improved and they are better than outsiders and they are transformed and they are elevated, so you do not actually want to see that. If anything, even if something is happened, even if you're facing some pain, some problem, or some form of abuse you face, it looks like surrender, it looks like discipline, it looks like humility or service or purification. Sometimes you're told that, oh, it happened to you, someone did that to you in our community, because it's for your own good, it's for your purification. Now you'll become more purified. So in the initial days, it does not looks like trauma, it looks like I am becoming spiritual. All these, see, something happened to me and I shared with them, and they told me that, oh, it's for your purification. Oh, it's a service. It's just discipline. That person talked to you rudely because they were just disciplining you, and you were told to do something, or you were deprived of something because you are required to surrender more and more. So this is these all these things: surrender, discipline, humility, service, purification. So initially it doesn't feels like, or doesn't looks like trauma. It looks like I am becoming spiritually elevated, until one day you realize you've lost your own voice. Because the both of the things are there in toxic spiritual spaces. Abuse is always there, but also this all these words and phrases and verses, the teachings, they are always there. So they are there to confuse you. Nobody is doing, not everyone is doing that intentionally to you, but that's how the toxic system works. Even the unintentional abuser, they keep telling you it's for your own good, and you must try harder, and maybe it's your karma and all that. So that's how you don't identify it in the initial days.
Why do you think spiritual abuse can happen in any belief system or tradition, even those claiming to be loving, holy, or enlightened?
um I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Sure. Why do you think spiritual abuse can happen in any belief system or tradition, even those claiming to be loving, holy, or enlightened?
Okay, see, narcissistic people, I would say, narcissistic toxic people, they are everywhere. See, any spiritual community, whether it's a good one, a completely positive one, a toxic one, or a gray community with both aspects, such communities, such temples, churches, mosques, congregations, they are open for everyone. They cannot put a barrier that only good people are allowed. Anybody is allowed. And of course, bad people are allowed too, because they are more in need of spiritual elevation, because they need to be corrected. They need, their consciousness needs to be improved, so that they can become good people in future. So obviously doors are open for everyone, and now, and when the doors are open for everyone, everybody will come. Toxic narcissistic people will also come. Now the genuine seeker, they came to these spaces because they want to connect to God, they want to become better people, and they want to serve the society or the community. However, when narcissistic people come to these spaces, they do not come for God. They come here for control, admiration, and power, as I said before. And uh, spiritual spaces, religious spaces, they almost all of them have this unquestioned authority and moral pressure with no accountability. As I said before, when narcissistic people enter these spaces and they see that if I reach a certain position in this in this congregation or in this church, then I will not, there is no accountability mechanism, and these followers, they are under so much pressure, and the authority that I get is unquestionable by everyone. Now I can use, now I can control anyone I want to, and I will be admired for my position and my material achievements in this group, in the hierarchy, and I will have power over these things. So narcissistic people in general, they want to control, they want to be admired, they have a deep desire for excessive admiration. They are very controlling, and they like to uh, be in power. So in other settings it's not that easy to achieve. Let's say in their office, they have to have certain degrees and some skills and capabilities to reach to that position. At least some they need, otherwise they use a lot of tactics to get leadership positions very easily in all kind of settings. But in spiritual spaces, it's very easy. You just learn a little bit of verses and you read some scriptures and you get to know about the structure and the famous people of your community. You get create good relationship with them, spend some money, and you have some social connections, you use them, you bring some material benefits to your community, and voila, you are a leader in 5 months. So now, when these people, they come to these spaces, They
Mhm.
will act in their own narcissistic ways. They have their narcissistic tendencies that they will use, and when they are there, they are for themselves. So they may create dysfunction, or if the dysfunction is already existing, they may enhance it, and they will not never want to stop it from happening, because it's benefiting them, as I said before. So narcissistic people, toxic people, dysfunctional people existing in these communities is the reason why spiritual abuse manifests and is sustained in these spaces. And a good leader would want to keep their spaces safe. Like a good parent would always want to have functionality as much as they can in their home, good relationship among their children, good relationship with their spouse, and good relationship between their spouse and their children. They want harmony. Good people want peace, harmony, growth, autonomy, boundaries. On the other hand, narcissistic people, they do not care about anybody's well-being or their growth or anything. All they care about is themselves. How I can benefit from this situation, how I can benefit from that rule, this thing. So it's them. It's the existence of narcissistic toxic people in such systems that causes dysfunction.
All right. Okay, there's another comment question for you here. This is from Chintia Govindas. Hi, Anu. It's going very interesting and important. Please light on. How do we distinguish between strict spiritual discipline and actual spiritual abuse?
Okay. As I said in one of the previous questions answers, you
Okay.
should know, first of all, the one who is um, creating these rules or implementing on them someone, they should first ask themselves, why have I created this rule, and why do I want to implement it? Is it really for the well-being of this person, of this follower, of this devotee, or is it for my sense gratification? And I know it's very difficult for someone who has even if a little bit of narcissistic tendencies, even if someone is a little bit of toxic. And even before you create a rule or discipline, try to discipline something, you ask yourself, why am I being interested in this thing? So whenever you are doing any service, any kind of service, you are creating a rule, you are trying to discipline something, you are changing system, you are creating system, you first of all ask yourself, why am I doing all of this? What's my actual intention? Am I really trying to please God because I want to grow spiritually? Am I really concerned about the well-being, the spiritual well-being of this person, so that this person can grow spiritually? So first of all, you ask yourself this question, and if you're honest enough to answer these questions, your doubts will be clarified. In most of the cases, people don't know, because I remember, I can recall a few incidences when I witnessed someone disciplining someone because they were too afraid. Because let's say a father disciplining his son for attending a spiritual class. So, what's your basic idea? What's your basic concern? If my son does not attend this spiritual class, his spiritual life will be affected. If this is your concern, then you ask yourself, am I always this concerned about my son's spiritual life, or only for this particular class, which if my son does not attend, it might affect my image in the congregation as a devotee, as a leader, or whatever. This will give you the answer. Whenever you are disciplining your wife, your son, your other people who are below you in the hierarchy, and you think that you are being strict, or if they are telling you that you are being too strict, you ask yourself, am I really concerned about this person's spiritual life, or am I concerned about my image in the congregation? Will my image be affected if this person does not do exactly as I tell them to do? Then you are doing it for yourself. Also, maybe you are not afraid of your that your image will get disturbed. Maybe you want to achieve something out of it. Maybe you are trying to show someone that, see, I'm talking about someone who, as a husband, trying to being too strict or too disciplining too much their family. Sometimes people do that because they want to achieve something from their group, from their senior, from their congregation, from their church, from their group. I had two such stories, and I have included three such stories in my book, where women and their children were continuously abused by their leader, by their husband, who was also a leader in their congregation, in their church, because he wanted to show everyone, see how perfect I am as a leader. Because of my perfection as a leader, my family is so much committed to God and doing all the rituals, and also so much committed to the community. So it was never about the spiritual well-being of their to their wife and children, but it was only about enhancing their own image in the congregation. So if you are honest enough to ask that question, am I doing it for myself, my sense gratification, achieving something material from my group, or I'm afraid of that my image will be impacted in front of other toxic people, or do I genuinely care for these people's spiritual life? If I genuinely care for the spiritual growth of these people, am I always concerned about their spiritual life, or only when my own image is also on board? That will answer you.
Sure. What typical patterns do we see in victims of spiritual abuse, especially in the way they think, behave, or justify what is happening to them?
Um, if someone has been spiritually abused, a lot of things happen to them. Um, I've actually described all the psychological things that happen to them. One of them, the biggest problem that victims of spiritual abuse face, is cognitive dissonance, which is existence of two contradicting thoughts. Like, I know that this person abused me, but also this person is so dutiful, so it might be my fault. This person is abusive, this person abuses me, this person makes my life hell, but also this person is highly committed to God, doing also many rituals and knows the verses and takes classes and does so much for the community. Now these are two coexisting thoughts. This person is monster, but this person is also so divine, so holy. Now which one to believe? If I believe the image that this person has created in to show the rest of the world, then I will betray myself, because I have seen the truth at home. I have seen what this person has done to me over the years. Or if, let's say, we talk about a leader, we know something about a leader that they have done to someone in the private, or they have done something to me, or someone like, I know a lot of stories about a lot of leaders. Survivors came to me when I was writing my book. I have hundreds of stories. I know about people who are still holding leadership positions in temples, in churches, in communities, in cults, who have done horrible thing to people. Now the victims, they never get the clarity of thought, because when they were in the system, they were continuously told that questioning, doubting, asking question, doubting leaders is equal to doubting God. Asking question means you are asking question about God. You are not fully committed, you are not loyal to God, you lack commitment. And the word that is very frequently used in Vaishnav communities, your karma. I am abusing you because it's your karma. You are helpless, nobody's helping you, and nobody's doing anything for you because it's your karma. Of course, I always say I believe in the law of karma, but when someone just uses this to justify their behavior or behavior of someone else, when they clearly know that, see, if you remember from Mahabharat, Pandavas had so many problems in their lives. Their entire life was full of problems. But as a well-wisher, Krishna never said that, oh, it's your karma, you go and handle it yourself. He was always there. He was always there at all his steps. His own parents, his real parents, his foster parents, his own siblings, everybody was had so many problems. But in toxic faith systems, you are frequently told that if you are sad, it's your karma, you are sinful, you are not doing your practices in the right way. If you are distressed, if you have depression, you are not doing it right. However, if you look carefully at all the loved ones of Krishna, they had so many problems of in their life, and yet they everyone loved Krishna so much. I often tell victims of spiritual abuse that just because you're sad, you have depression, doesn't means you do not love God. I can see how much you do. I have a client who, during the 45-minute sessions, she keeps talking about how much she misses everything she used to do in the temple, but they don't allow her there now because something happened, because she became a whistleblower about something, and then they threw her out. And she cries, keeps crying and crying and questioning her worth. So she keeps questioning her worth, and I keep telling her, you already have worth to God. Nobody your Nobody's permission to you that you can go to their church and do certain services or not. That will not decide what you're worth as a follower, as a believer, as a devotee. It's what you carry inside you, the inner belief that you carry inside you. I once told her that you she said, I do not have anything, I cannot. She has severe mental health issues, and she cannot even get up from her bed and do things. Now she's better after a few weeks of therapy. At that time, I told her, she said that I always keep crying in my bed. I want to serve. I said, the tears that are coming out of your eyes, thinking about you cannot serve, these are the tears you can serve to God. That will be your serving. And suddenly she felt so better. So that's it.
All right. When a leader, family member, or religious community becomes the source of abuse, what psychological mechanisms keep the victim loyal or silent?
It's trauma bond. It's primarily the trauma bond. If you are showered with so much love and care and everything by a person, by a community or a group, you instantly become loyal to them. See, everybody in this world wants to belong somewhere. Everybody wants to be loved, to be taken care of. But it's not very easy in today's time that somebody would love you unconditionally. Love is a very rare, becoming very rare thing these days. Even it's not easy to get it from your parents, from your children, from your partner. And suddenly, if you get a community, a whole community full of so many people who are showing you so much love and care and support, and they are also nice and kind and morally elevated, and they have a high conscious level, why wouldn't you want to, lower your guards, as I said before? And in all kinds of communities, toxic ones as well as healthy ones, you are always, the community members have always this idea that we have to keep this image, and we have to live our life in a certain way so that we look purer than the outsider, so that outsiders will feel attracted and they will come and become part of us. So of course, the actual growth is also there in healthy communities and in gray communities, but also from the day one you are supposed to live your life in a certain way, look a certain way. So when you are among those people who look holy, look pure, and they also show you a lot of care and support, so that you stay, so that you do not leave, so that you feel so safe and accepted, you do not care much about the outside relationships. It happens in both type of communities, as I say before. But in healthy communities, that support stays, that support is always there. Even in the gray communities, the good people, the actually genuine people, they stay by your side throughout your journey. They are always there. But toxic people, or a community who is completely toxic, a cult, and no community is 100% toxic. You'll everywhere you will find some good people. So the good people, what they show, the love and care that they show you in the beginning, it stays. However, the toxic people, they are only carrying the facade, and they are helping the system in the recruitment. And when you're recruited, you become part of it, you become loyal, then they can change, they can turn that love switch off, because it's not required according to them. So when you are loved by any person for a long time, when someone shows you unconditional love, someone shows you a lot of care and support, and they actually support you a lot of, give you a lot of support, and they praise you, and they are there for you for a very long time, you obviously get emotionally attached to them. And when you get emotionally attached to them, when you get to know something is wrong, you cannot leave. That's the same thing that happens when with the victims of domestic abuse. They are beaten, they are thrashed, they are abused, they are manipulated, they are coerced, but still they stay for the sake of the good things that happen in the beginning, or intermittently when they keep happening. So abusive people, whether in intimate relationships or in communities like this one, they do this, what we call in psychology is intermittent reinforcement, where you are intermittently given a little bit of crumbs of love or care, so that you keep hoping to get it more. And it's not also not consistent. Initially you might think that if I perform in a certain way, if I do something, I might get it frequently, but no, it's not. It's given intermittently. Sometimes it's given, sometimes it's not given, so you keep hoping to get it back. And initial days, that love, the intense love and care, so you like that so much, and you stayed and you got emotionally connected for all that. Now your heart longs for that, and you keep hoping, maybe I can get that again, maybe I can get that again, maybe if I do something else. So that trauma bonding is the primary reason. And apart from that, there is also a lot of fear conditioning. You are constantly told, if you do this, God will be displeased. If you do this, it will create karma, and this is sinful and all that. So fear conditioning is also that. Also emotional dependency, you become emotionally dependent on these people, and the group cohesion and the us versus them mentality, it creates a distance from the people who are outside. Also you're repeatedly told that um, they are less pure than you are, their consciousness is lower than yours, because you are part of the community now, so your consciousness is, and you are more fortunate, and you have more higher level of so in this way you are repeatedly told that how you have become a superior human than them. So you've already distanced yourself from them, and now you need to have emotional connection with someone. So there is a lot of emotional dependency also inside the groups. And isolation, as I told you, you've already isolated yourself from the outsider, because you think if you stay with them it will affect your spiritual life. Then community pressure is also there. You can't just leave a community. There will be lot of retaliation, there will be lot of questioning, and you cannot say anything in response to that. You cannot say that something or someone was wrong, because the moment you say, you will be labeled as, because you lacked commitment, because you are less loyal, because you didn't do things in the right way, because you didn't try it hard. Maybe if you did try it hard, this wouldn't have happened. Maybe a lot of accumulated karmas are there, that's why this is happening to you. See, look at us, we are all together, still together. See, we do not have bad karmas, we are still together. So there is a lot of community pressure also, direct, indirect, subtle. And the fear of divine punishment is always there, even long after leaving the communities. Even those who somehow get to leave the community, they still have this lingering fear of divine punishment, because you were repeatedly told that this is the only path that leads to the God. If you go to any other path, you will not reach God, and God will be displeased. And also you are leaving, and you're questioning, and you're pinpointing, and you are being a whistleblower. This is all sinful. How could you say something against someone who is spreading God's name and taking people on this, bringing people on this path and spreading the glories of God? It's all sinful. So if you do this, there will be divine retribution. So the fear of divine punishment is always there. And the biggest one is believing the abuser is closer to God. It happens all the time. And believing leaving them means leaving God. It happens all the time. Toxic leaders, toxic preachers, they always tell you that the I am the way to God. If you stay connected with me, I can take the verses out of the context and use it every time they want to manipulate you. You cannot reach God without me. And they do it so beautifully that people even start to believe this. Even um, they sometimes, some leaders also say that even though there are so many leaders and all that, but I am the one who can actually take you to the God. So if you are leaving me, it means you're destroying your spiritual life. So the belief, that the biggest belief, that abuser is closer to God, this person is closer to God, and I am not, and I left this person, so I did something horrible to my spiritual life. So these are the reason why people are afraid of leaving. I am in touch with so many people who have faced so much abuse, but they cannot leave. But they are in so much confusion, and I cannot just go and tell them, "Oh, you leave. They are toxic." No, they will
Mm.
run away from me also. So time will teach them as they spend more and more time. The cognitive dissonance that I said, the existence of two exactly opposite thoughts. This person is abuser, but this person is closer to God. We have to come in terms with one of this. Unless until we keep believing in both of these, that this person is abusing me, but this person is also closer to God. This, it's not possible. An abuser cannot be closer to God than the victim. Of course, God sees, God is there for everyone. God is not for those who are carrying a very good social image of being a pseudo spiritualist. It's not. But toxic community systems make you believe in that. The more beautifully someone is carrying the facade, they are closer to the God.
All right. Okay. Before I get to my final question, there's another comment question here. How do a follower distinguish this, whether he is controlled by his mentor or he is in strict spiritual discipline? Again, this is by Achintya Govindas.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the same question, so the same answer that I said about the red flags. If
Okay.
the red
Okay.
flags are not there, so you know that it's healthy mentorship. See, a healthy guidance, they will welcome your questions. They will not be terrified of your
Mm,
questions. They will not shame
mm,
you.
mm.
I
Okay.
I remember I'm meeting someone, and I remember someone meeting a person, a spiritual person meeting someone, and that person was talking to someone else, to their friend, about another person, a third person, who asked a question on their first day of meeting, and they were mocking this person for asking a question. And I was very new at that time, and I got so terrified. I said, wow, asking question is sinful. And they were talking in such a way that, you know, this person came to me for the first time and he asked question. Oh, why do these people have question? Why do they can't just surrender? I mean, what's the problem? You come here and you simply surrender and everything will be okay. Why everyone has question? And they were mocking this person and they were laughing at this person, and I thought, wow, I was about to ask a lot of questions, but now I will not, because I don't want to be labeled. See, when you are in a space where um, like in dysfunctional families or in dysfunction extended families, there are some questions that you can never ask, because the moment you ask, you will be labeled. Like
Mm.
in patriarchal systems, there are few things
Yeah.
that you just cannot ask. You just have to accept everything. If you don't, they will laugh at you, they will mock you, they will label you. And why do they do this? Because they are insecure, they are incompetent. Incompetent people never allow questions, because it makes them, it terrifies them. It gives them the fear, what if everybody gets to know that I also don't know the answer? It's mostly people who are incompetent or who are toxic. Sometimes toxic people, they do know the answers, and if they know that if they answer this question, this person might run away, or I might have to put some genuine efforts into making this person grow spiritually. As someone who genuinely cares about your spiritual life, or as a teacher who genuinely cares about teaching you and helping you grow in that particular subject, they would never lie to you. They would never lie to give you a wrong answer. They can face the humiliation of not knowing the answer, but they will not lie to you. And if they think that they know the answer, and that answer can cause disturbance in you, and then you might ask more question, they will do that because they are actually concerned about your education in both material life as well as in spiritual spaces. So healthy guidance welcomes your questions, they respect your boundaries. If you say that I want you to do so and so, and I say I cannot do this at moment, I'm sorry, and they say okay, you please do that whenever you can. No, you should try, you can try, see, God wants to do this, and then you take a verse and throw on their face, see, according to this verse you are a fool and you are stupid, and because that's why you're doing this thing and that. Or you pass some passive aggressive statements. That's the problem in today's time. People don't want to do this, that's why this is happening in your life. So you are not respecting boundaries. You should respect boundaries. Controlling people do not like boundaries of other people, although they are very careful about their own boundaries, but they do not respect. They understand boundaries. It might look like they do not understand boundaries. They are very well understand boundaries, but only, well, it's when it's about their own boundaries. When it comes to other people's boundaries, they don't know what boundaries are. They keep overstepping them all the time. So respect, if they are respecting your boundaries, this person is genuine, this person is a genuine leader, then they support your individuality. We all have our own unique capabilities, qualities, personality. We should not do, we should not take a frame and try to fit everyone in that, or try to compare, saying that, say, so and so person is doing that, you also do like that. People do a lot, people do this thing a lot in family preaching, forcing their children or their husband or their mother or their wife or their daughter to be a certain way because they saw something and they got impressed, and they think now you should always be like that. No, everybody carries their own personality, their own likes, their own desires, their own competence, their own qualities. You respect that person and let them connect to God with what they have, or or what they already have. So you support your individuality. I recall one leader from my community who is very good at that. This person always identifies every person, that what this person is as an individual, and then uses that person's natural talents to help them grow in the ways that they can use to connect to God. Not everyone does that. So healthy guidance supports your individuality. They empower your inner voice. You're allowed to speak, you're allowed to think, you're allowed to question, you're allowed to dissent. So if you have an inner voice, you are not told to suppress it, because if you suppress your inner voice, it will disconnect you from yourself. And when you disconnect you from yourself, it can lead to a lot of physical and mental health issues and emotional issues, which take a lot of healing later on. And healthy guidance nurtures your connection with the divine. Now you see, after this particular person's or group's guidance, did I become closer to God, or did I become more afraid of God or aversive to God? This is one sure short sign to see. If I am afraid and apprehensive all the time, what if I do this or don't do that? What will happen? Will God be displeased? Will I become a sinner? Will I create karma? If you are constantly thinking like this, it means your connection with divine did not got nurtured. In fact, it got damaged. You should feel safe with God. So I think the safest thing in this entire universe is God. God is someone you should always feel safe with. If you are not safe with God, definitely you are in a spiritually abusive situation. And the last one is, never uses fear. A healthy guidance never uses fear. They do not use fear to see if you do this or that will happen, and they don't always use fear in direct overt ways. They do it subtly, so that your subconscious gets the message, even if you're not
Mhm.
aware that this person is using fear to control you, but the message gets internalized. So they do not use manipulation, they don't guilt trip you, they don't demand obedience, they do not use fear or divine threat. And because when you are being manipulated in situations in spiritual spaces, they use guilt tripping, they demand obedience, they use fear or divine threat, they shut down your intuition, they connect you from yourself gradually, and they replace your inner voice with theirs. Initially they will say passive aggressive comments and sarcastic comments, and they will take verses to make you feel afraid or make you feel guilty or ashamed. And over the time, these voices get internalized in you. I have observed my clients saying these internalized things to themselves, and I have to ask them, where is this coming from? Was this really your belief, or did it come from someone? And then they think, no. Particular leaders said to me this repeatedly over the years, and now I started to believe in this. So, as I always say, healthy spirituality expands you, and abusive spirituality shrinks you. In fact, any kind of healthy relationships allows you to grow, expand. It nurtures you. And any kind of abusive relationship or abusive, it shrinks you. You're not you start to feel like, I'm not allowed to take space for myself, so you shrink yourself to fit in their version of you. All kind of abusive relationship, they force you to modify yourself, to shrink yourself so that you can fit in their version of you, instead of helping you to enhance your existing version, to become a better version of yourself.
Yeah, I kind of realized that my final question is pretty much similar to this comment question, but you can just give me a bit of a summary answer if it's very much similar. How can someone begin to differentiate between healthy spiritual mentorship and manipulation, guilt, control, or coercion? So you can summarize it if you've, 'cause I think he has given a similar question.
Yeah, if something feels like confusing, demeaning,
Hmm.
unsafe, it probably is. So abuse hides behind spiritual language. So if so you are someone, so like I said before, so if you feel on the inside that you are not you are, you think you have started to feel that you have to shrink yourself every time you
Hmm.
are around them to fit your version of themselves. If you are hyper vigilant, you're always thinking about, you're always apprehending about your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, anything that you have, your feelings. What if they get to know about that? Will I be judged? If you have constant fear of judgment, if you think that thinking for myself is sinful, if you think that questioning is wrong, if you think that whenever you have a idea, a thought, a belief that is different from theirs, you immediately get fearful that I am a sinful person. If this is recurring thought, if you are always afraid, always afraid of something, and you think that only they can fix me, or only a particular person can fix me, you're probably being manipulated by them.
All right. All I got to say is thanks so much for your time, and I look forward to the next chapter.
Yeah, sure. See you in the next chapter.